Well, good morning to you, and thank you for joining me today as we come on this Wednesday to spend some time in the truth. We are in Genesis chapter 49, looking at the blessings delivered by Jacob as he's nearing the end of his life, sharing these blessings with his sons about their futures. Today we're going to come to verse 49 and go down through verse 21. Here we have three very short and concise statements made to the next three of Jacob's sons. Gad, you got to find where I'm at here. Gad, Asher, and Naphtali. So we're going to take a look at these today and see what direction Jacob had for these three sons. So as he continues with the blessing here in verse 19, he says, raiders shall raid Gad, but he shall raid at their heels. So again, it's just a really brief statement that God makes, or Jacob makes, about Gad and his inheritance, which will come in the future in the land, and what will be characteristic of them. And the issue that's characteristic of them is the idea that they're a troubled people, troubled by people outside of them, other peoples who want to come in and cause trouble in the inheritance that Gad receives. And so raiders shall raid Gad. There are going to be a number of conflicts, issues that exist between the people of Gad and their neighbors from the other side of the Jordan River. Gad is on the east side of the Jordan River. On the west side are going to be oppositions, people that oppose them. And we know for sure, we have an example in Judges 10, verses 7 and following, where the Ammonites actually attack Gad. And in Judges 11, we see the raising up of Jephthah as a judge, who then leads the people of Gad to fight against the Ammonites, ultimately bringing victory in that circumstance. So it's just a picture of the turmoil that is going to be something that the people of Gad will experience. In 2 Chronicles chapter 5, verses 18 to 22, it describes the tribe of Gad as an aggressively counterattacking tribe. They're good at retaliating. And that's what we see as we look at this, but he shall raid at their heels. So chasing them off and then being able to plunder them, I believe, is the picture that we have for the tribe of Gad. So a very short phrase about them that describes what their future is going to look like as they inherit in the land. Next, we come to Asher. Jacob's statement about Asher comes in verse 20, and it says, Asher's food shall be rich, and he shall yield royal delicacies. So Asher inherits the land in the northeastern part of the promised land, along the Mediterranean Sea, bordering on their east. And it's a very fertile part of the land of promise, a place where food is produced in great quantities. And the idea of food here that yields royal delicacies is the idea of food fit for a king. It's going to be some of the best production of food in the promised land is going to come out of the inheritance of the tribe of Asher. And they're protected pretty much on the seacoast on their east, and on their west they have two other tribes, and on their they're surrounded on the west side by other tribes of Israel. The only real border that they have outside of Israel is that with Phoenicia, which is to the north of them on the Mediterranean Sea border, which would be Tyre and Sidon in the future. And so Asher is going to be this profitable land, this land that's going to produce great crops and provide food fit for a king. What a beautiful prophetic picture of the future for the tribe of Asher. Then we come to verse 21, which presents some interesting challenges interpretively. Verse 21 is the blessing that Jacob brings to Naphtali. The first part of it is not so difficult to come up with an understanding of. It's the second part of the phrase that has caused interpreters a little bit of uncertainty as they look at it. At the beginning, it says Naphtali is a doe let loose. And so the picture of a female deer being let loose, being set free, having the opportunity to roam and grow and nourish itself is part of the picture of a deer just having freedom to move, freedom to do what they desire. Pretty nice picture of a blessing to have the freedom. But we come to the second half of the phrase, and basically there are two different translations or two basic translation ideas presented. When you look at the King James Version of Scripture, it says that she utters beautiful words. So it reads like this: Naphtali is a deer let loose that utters beautiful words. And the struggle that interpreters have with that phrase is it doesn't make sense in the picture of a doe. Deer don't speak in words. So there's been some interesting projections about what that means. But it just doesn't make sense in the context. Deer don't speak. They don't use words. So there's a struggle. And so some others have looked at the original language and they come up with the idea that Naphtali is a deer let loose that bears beautiful fawns. Well, they got to look at the Hebrew word, and does it fit this idea of beautiful fawns? And so some interpreters look at it and believe that there's some scribal error in the documents that we have that has altered the meaning of this last phrase. And so many newer translations, more recent, have added this idea of beautiful fawns, producing beautiful fawns, which makes sense in the context of the illustration of a doe. And here they would project then that the idea of beautiful fawns is the picture of the prosperity in the tribe of Naphtali. So there's a big struggle in scholarship as to what this interpretation ought to be and how it should be phrased. No real conclusion is given. There's a lot of statements made, but I didn't find any as I looked at a few different commentators and their input on it today. If you take the route of fawns as the interpretation, then they paint this picture of the blessing of being able to reproduce and thrive, being set free and thriving is a picture for the tribe of Naphtali. If you take it as beautiful words, then there really isn't no commentator that I read came up with a good reason for it to say that, a good understanding of why, Jacob would say you're like a doe set free who produces beautiful words. So every now and then in Scripture, we run into a little bit of a interpretive roadblock. My tendency would be to lean more in the direction of the idea of fawns, just because it makes the most sense in the context. But when you start looking at the language, you really have a struggle with coming up with this idea of beautiful fawns unless something was altered in the text. So there is some discrepancy about Naphtali in the second part of this blessing that Jacob brings to him. I'll leave it up to you to decide. There are many things in Scripture that in eternity don't make any difference. And this is one of those. So if you want to look at words and try to identify how that fits into this context, you have freedom to do so. It's just one of the challenging passages that we're going to deal with as we look at Scripture. Every now and then we're going to find one that's a challenge for us to wrap our heads around when it comes to interpretation. But that's our blessings on Gad, Asher, and Naphtali today. We're going to stop there today because the next portion talks about Joseph, and it's a significant portion. So we're going to take time tomorrow to look at Joseph and what Jacob has to say about Joseph, and then followed by Benjamin. He'll be the last one in the prophecies or blessings that we see Jacob delivering. So thanks for taking time in the truth with me today. I look forward to seeing you tomorrow as we come back to look at Joseph and what Jacob says about him. I hope that you'll have a great day in the Lord. Walk with him, please him, serve him. Isn't a better thing you and I could do. And I'll look forward to seeing you tomorrow.